Men of one house, men of same blood, black men, big men, father men, son men, serving men, fighting men. They lost themselves somewhere. The legend of Buster Neal challenges the myth all black men aren't fathers, disputes the too often truth that all are deadbeats and black mothers are left raising black boys. This play tells a different story. The Neal men are compassionate, fearless, and unbelievably loyal. It is in their nature to take care of one another, to be providers. These type of black men do not seem to exist in our media. Jackie Alexander did something remarkable. He found the value in sharing black history. This play dives right into every complex and misunderstood characteristic of black men. It explores the need for 21st century griots, African historians, the homage in sharing family history and preparing our next generation. Sankofa teaches us a person can never move forward if they don't acknowledge the past. I believe once we begin to communicate, questions will be answered. The answer could often be in our history. Let us follow the legend.
The idea for The Legend of Buster Neal was born out of a conversation I overheard one Christmas. We had some younger cousins and some older uncles, and they seemed to be talking at each other and not to each other. It was like a disconnect. No one was hearing what the other said. And as I watched this, I thought it'd be a great idea, because I hadn't seen it very often, to put a cast of all men on stage, present them with an issue, a dilemma, a problem, and have them have to work it out together. And I wanted to recreate that conversation I'd overheard, older and younger generation. So when I came up with the idea, I was like, all right, I'm going to get this one family with representation from 5 different generations, put them on stage, put them in a situation that create a problem that needs to be resolved, and have only them, have them only themselves to rely on to resolve this problem. There is a real Buster Neal. People always ask that question. Buster Neal was a older gentleman who lived next door to my grandfather in Carville, Louisiana, and I just used to love hanging out with him. He was a very interesting guy. He carried a 6-gun shooter on his waist all the time, and he had been in the war. I can't remember which war, to be honest, but he had a ton of guns, just guns all over the house. And the first time I shot a gun was with him, and this very interesting guy, played in Negro Leagues, always had all these very interesting stories, and I just always thought his name was really cool. So when I was thinking about the play and I knew I wanted it to be these men working out issues, I thought, The Legend of Buster Neal, the title just popped in my head. And actually, the opening scene of the play is a recount of a story that I had heard told growing up that involved Buster Neal and my grandfather. It had a slightly different outcome than what I've dramatized in the play, but that opening, the prologue to the play, is taken from an actual event that happened to Buster Neal and my grandfather. There's a mystical aspect to this play that I really enjoy. I wanted to create, or I wanted to put 5 generations of men on stage, and of course, realistically, someone would have to be into their hundreds to get all of those generations on stage. So with the character of Buster, I made him this mystical character. We don't know. You don't know if he's a ghost. You don't know if he's been alive. You don't know if he's really old. You don't know who he is, and he kind of appears and disappears. And I really like that idea of this figure watching over these generations of men for all these years. So we have stories from World War I up until the youngest member in the family talking about Lil Wayne or wanting to be a rapper. So we cover over 100 years of history, and this mystical aspect allowed me to create that.
Legend, back to the present. You see, my flow came from the heaven. I do this forever. No one can do it better. You'll read about it when the famous. Cause I am legend. I am legend. You see, my flow came from the heaven. I do this forever. No one can do it better. You'll read about it when the famous.